Yeah, so all these dense and intense presentations here, like on this Congress as well as that Congress, so I will see how I can contribute to it. The quantum physics states that at the most basic levels of the universe, events involving the smallest particles like electrons and protons only occur once they are observed. Which raises the question, do I create or initiate consciousness and my world? Max Planck suggests that the material world may be derived from consciousness and not the other way around. So, does consciousness create me? If consciousness creates me, or creates the material world, then it may not depend on this or another world to exist. The conclusion would be that consciousness doesn't need a brain to exist. And if consciousness does not require a brain, it may continue after the brain stops working, independent to attach to another source. And with all the discussions we have about consciousness and quantum physics, some questions still remain. Does every material form or appearance have an energetic mode? That means does form really emerges from the thought field or from other fields? So Prigogine lays out in his work Order Out of Chaos, in a system far from thermodynamic equilibrium, a macroscopic order can arise spontaneously. In that case, a self-organizing structure itself creates a field, and in this moment, a process of creation and manifestation is set into motion. And the emergence of a field will be inseparable from the structure that it's created. It's a dynamic process. David Bohm calls this principle the hollow movement. A dynamic phenomenon out of which all forms of the material universe flow. For the human being, this will be the creation of the body-mind field. Of course, it doesn't look that organized like in that graphic, but we get to it. So what does it mean then on our personal level? And before I go there, I would like to share with you a personal experience that demonstrates the principle I just described. In a deep moment of centering, I find myself on a mountainside in China or in Japan, overlooking the rice fields in a long green valley. I'm in a state that I call a perfect stillness, a state between lives, in an energetic equilibrium. There are no desires, no attachments, no I, no time, no movement, no physical perception of existence, not even flow, just potential. A monk comes up the hill, and the spark of light emitted from his eyes invites me, and I answer by taking a breath that activates my potential. And in this decision-making process, I agree and decide to follow him. On gentle slopes then, he guides me further down the mountain until we reach another pass. Soon I see the wooden structure of an old Zen monastery. I step inside and become aware that all rooms are empty. They lead to a large wooden deck overlooking the valley. I sit down meditating, open for information where that will lead me. Here my experience ends. Later I realized that from a state I see as between lives, an activating moment of the potential took place, which I affirmed with my intention and breath, activating a movement. In that moment, the formative powers of manifestation were set into motion and informed the structuring of my system, thus awakening the consciousness of my body-mind field. To approach this more on a practical level, I would like to take a look with you at the cycle of life and the process of my work in the process of coevolution. I come back to that graphic. Somewhere in space, an intention is formed that manifests in the human body and follows the journey, visually being born into gentle hands without medication, into the continuity of a protective space with a benediction of contact, breastfed when wanted, and held in loving presence. So the whole phase of embodying can prepare us for the adventure of life. Basically, we got to recognize that life expresses itself with pulsation. Whatever lives pulsates. I just call it the pulsation of life, in which we carry our essential qualities, which we express through our core, through the individuated universe of life energy that we bring into this life. And we, of course, develop a body. As we can see, we develop our emotions and feelings, our cognitive capacities, which we execute then through our will. But it's a will of the ego. It's a will of the personality. It's a will of the consciousness of the personality, which is always limited. And we can observe that the interaction of our body reactions, emotions, feelings, and the cognitive capacity allows mind to emerge so that it can connect to consciousness and also contribute to consciousness. Therefore, the consciousness of the body is not just in the brain, but in the whole body-mind field. Already Einstein expressed there is no place in quantum physics for the field and matter, for the field is the only reality. So we are vibratory beings in the spectrum of subtle energy and dense matter. By the time of this talk, and as we could see today, it will not go further into developmental issues, but we know from our own life, confirmed by developmental psychology and bonding research, that any energetic impulse that does not get harmoniously integrated into the system and interferes with the free flow of life can become a form-giving force. And we hold then images of these experiences as representations in our body-mind field. And images in the field of consciousness are psychophysical emotional processes and their energetic impressions in our system. I tried then to document how emotional, mental and other processes can structure our body-mind field. For that I began over 30 years ago with medical Kirlian photography, where you make pictures of the energy flow, the meridian energy flow from the hand and feet, and then take your analysis and the radiation that you see. But then I moved on to a more objective part, that is the objective measurement with infrared measurement, where you just take the heat waves from the body, which is just in the invisible spectrum. And so we did a lot of research groups about that. The images, they went around the world because I work with the German Acupuncture Society, and it's pretty well known in the Acupuncture Society, because we also could document meridian-like structures. I was more interested in documenting how our emotions and feelings and images related to them in our energy field, because I'm a body-oriented and mindfulness-centered psychotherapist. So that is my aim and that I work with. So I would like to come back to the woman on the left side. It has a Genghis Khan beard, that's a little bit too unclear. So let's stay with that picture. Of course, she comes into medical treatment to the friend of mine. I work with a medical doctor in Germany there. And I cannot go into all the medical history of her, but of course I ask her, since my friend says I have no idea what that means. And I ask her, do you know in your family somebody who had a beard like that? And after some reflection, she said, I'm not really sure, but you know what? On the desk of my mother, there was always a picture of my grandfather who had a beard like that. And he was a patriarch, he held the family together, and that was in the 20s and 30s. First World War, Second World War, so a lot of things that he held together as a patriarch. Her life was falling apart, she developed triple cancer, separation from her husband, family fell apart. So that she in that moment is identifying with an image from her mother of a person that was strong and held the family together. That's of course a question that we gotta look into family therapy, we look into generational trauma situations, and so on and so on. We have no final answer for that. But we have no scientists coming together every summer in the Biophoton Congress in Germany to discover what are the principles of life that go beyond the brain. Here I would like to also document a sample from my practice. I cannot go into the case situation here, but we got to see that in general, temperature difference between 1.5 or 2 degrees is normal, but if it's more, then we know we're dealing with a blockage. And since you can see here, it's 4 to 6 degrees colder, that means we are dealing with an energy block, and I know from my experience it's an emotional scar. And I go, of course, with her into the story, but what I want to document here is what is when you open an energetic block in your embodied system? Energy flows. And when energy flows, emotions flow. That's why they are healthier. That is with real scars or with emotional scars, it's the same. And in that respect, then of course, when the story flows, then we can more and more integrate the old pain. So it's of course, the person goes into regression of certain situations in their life, and they can find new integration in their system now, and don't need to be a blockage anymore. Here I would like to bring in the holographic memory from Carl Pribram, that every cell and cell formation holds information. And in that very moment of memory, all parts of an experience, from wherever in the subtle or dense field of the body-mind system, and other connected fields, in the speed of light, contribute to recall information, so that the brain and other systems form an energetic information into a gestalt of experience that we then may hold as representation in our system. I know it's a dense sentence. In a larger context, we translate this into Bohm's concept of an unfolding holographic universe in which each part contains information of the whole, and therefore we can tap into the memory of all times. And that's why in therapeutic situations things like that can happen. So I need to come back, because with embodiment we could listen this day how we develop, how evolution takes place. So there is a resilience that we carry in us and that we develop. And resilience and the ongoing process of flow and integration requires the self-creation of a coherent field. In our work of coevolution, we support the stability of the coherent field is the activation and integration of the energy flow in the direct expression of life. That means into the practice of being. Because we know from Eric Kandel, we have the neuroplasticity, we heard about it, that every new learning process can rewire neuronal patterns and so on and so on. But we also now with Professor Mertzen, it takes 4 to 5 months to solidify these patterns. Just an opening is beautiful, but then you got to practice to solidify the neuronal wirings. So the practice of being is physically, emotionally, mentally, and on the level of the overall universal consciousness. Now you can see we expand the limitation of the consciousness of the personality and tap into a much larger field of consciousness. But we always got to see we connect this consciousness and we also contribute to it. That gets sometimes lost in the discussion when we say, where's consciousness? Are we creating it or are we part of it? Does it create us? It is a mutual interaction once we are in that state of experience of consciousness. So quantum physics and quantum biology document that cellular information is facilitated by the emission of photons. I had the luck to work with the world-leading researcher on biological light, Professor Pop. In this way, a person creates coherence. It's a coherent light, not a dispersed light. It's a coherent light, like a laser. And stabilizes the body-mind field. Because any destabilization can cause irritation and distortions like fear, PTSD, panic attacks, psychosis, and other situations. So coherence is the quality of forming a unified whole with the ability to sustain form and give direction to the energy. That means that you create a coherence and can bring that into life. Create coherence, bring it into life. Of course, it's an ongoing biological as well as a process of our mind. To document how the state of consciousness can influence our flow of energy, I got involved with Professor Pop in his laboratory in biophoton research. So here you see the biophoton measurement machine. Here is a biophoton chamber, totally dark, where we measure the photon emission from my hands, and the physicists are sitting outside to document it and validate it. First, because I am very familiar, I am doing a galactic send for over 40 years, so I know how to direct my energy to come in a state of concentration. In the first research, I concentrate my energy, I direct my consciousness, and you can also see the outpour of the photons. They are very aligned. It's a laser of my heart. And my coherence index is 1, that means I have it all together, okay? So, right, yeah. Then I take an image from an experience that I had even here in Arizona, in Monument Valley, a shamanic experience that I have not fully integrated. It's not fearful, but I don't know really what to do with it. It's very big, it's very large. So nevertheless, it's not integrated in my system, and as you can see, the flow of the photons are very chaotic. My coherence index is 0. On a therapeutic level, if somebody would stay, I show this picture to psychiatrists, doctors, and want to document, if you stay in that condition, people will get irritated, fearful, fidgety, and then, they become nervous and act sometimes in a way that you feel very strange. So, but before that, things happened. And that we got to find out, especially in trauma work, in personal interaction, in group interaction, and so on. That's where regulation already takes place on a very early level. On what level can we bring the person to a state of coherence and teach them how to sustain it? So, However, it's clear I cannot go on anymore into the topic of epigenetics that I have been involved in, and I don't get me going on my beloved topic on the energetic dimension of love. So, Professor Stanley Krippner here, we were 4 weeks ago on a congress in Mexico on love, the consciousness of love. So, nevertheless, however, it's clear that we need the courage to move towards a science and understanding of life that includes love and the human life. To create a coherent body-mind field so that we connect and expand our dimension of consciousness. So that we, according to the holographic principle, fragments, the electrons in the carbon atom in the human brain are connected to the subatomic particles that comprise every cell that swims, every heart that beats, and every star that shimmers in the sky. It's not anymore spirituality, it's physics, it's reality. And once you understand that and feel that and practice it, you feel connected. You go out 5 days into the wilderness here, and after 5 days you become aware how reality shifts and which part of nature is you and what are you in nature. So, nevertheless, so then with the knowledge of the larger existence, we realize ourselves with the will of the heart, as I call it, and of course you go and celebrate life. That means in that moment we integrate our past, we live in the present, and we shape our future. Thank you so much for your attentive and supportive presence. Any questions? I know it was dense, but like all our presentations have been. Yeah.
So from your perspective, information is not something specific to brains. In other words, there's information. My hand is.
Yeah.
Right?
No. On the last time of conference, I gave a presentation about several other areas that are not related to the brain. One, of course, was the enteric brain. So he didn't mention that 80% of our serotonin is created and 40 to 50% of the dopamine in the guts. So we have the meningeal lining, the water system they just discovered a year ago. What about glial cells, where we have no idea at the moment how to research them, and so on, and other situations that we haven't discovered so far. Absolutely not.
Tell us something about love.
I think as I mentioned here, love is a resonance with, it's a resonance with a continuous flow of life. So with that, I take it out of all romantic ideas, philosophies, and so on. And if you're in a state that I described in the graphic, in the state of oneness, as an experience of feeling the unity in me, then you see that flow, the continuous flow of life. It's a constant creation. We perceive that in our system, in our body as pleasure. So that for me is a state of love. Sometimes I give a lecture, of course, we like to find where's love in the brain and all these kind of things. But even that is again very limited, very reductionist. You see a little bit of oxygen somewhere popping up, and you say, oh, there's a seed, So it's too minimal, the information that we get so far. If you're really honest, what we look with fMRIs and so on. That's why I did the work with infrared and with biophoto measurement. All have value, but it's limited. And I understand when we accept that notion that the energy field, there would be a whole shift in thinking on the medical level, on the educational level. I give an example. When I be in CERN in Switzerland, and these physicists are just outrageously fantastic. Or I teach in Chile, and sometimes I go into the Atacama Desert. There is a big planetarium that they have X-ray telescopes, and they see universes unfolding, and again collapsing right in that moment when they look at it, you know. These people are in the perception of life and energy constantly moving. And when I ask them, how do you translate that when you come home and see your wife as a dynamic energy being? I said, come on, we are scientists, you know. So, he's not going home and saying, wow, Mary, I can really feel and sense you, you know. No, he says, hey, food ready? Okay. So, I mean, that's the period, that's where we got to come in and translate it into life. That's why we do science, to bring it into life. You know? Yeah, one more. Okay. Yeah.
What are the top internal and external mechanisms or techniques that you found to correct these emotions in the body or mind body?
I have been asked that today, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm 40 years now in this field, you know. And of course I work body-oriented, integrative, but mostly integrative. So I don't want to abide to any technique. I always express, I develop the technique in the moment when I'm with you. That requires that you need to have some tools to play with. So, but I work with so many consciousness teachers. It may be talking for one, it may be breathing for the other, it may be expression of feelings. I work from rage to bliss. Whatever you bring, I work with it with you to find more integration and find more answers. Sometimes clients come and say, you know what, I feel so really good. That's fantastic when clients come like that. They're not, oh, I have this problem, that problem. Because now, where do you want to go from here? So, in that respect, it's really what reaches you. And that's my art as a therapist, as a teacher, as a guide. How can I offer you something that you can receive in that moment of your experience? So, yeah. Thank you so much. As I said, stop me outside if you have questions, take a brochure, write me. I'm pretty good in answering. Thank you.